Welcome to the forecast office. This is where we record the data for our observations and disseminate internationally. So we would collect our temperature data, atmospheric pressure, wind data, and add it to our observations that we would have done on the roof. And then we encode it into our registers and disseminate it internationally. In addition to the human observations that are made on the rooftop or the observation deck, we also get observations from our instruments. So here we have our temperature instrument, our main temperature instrument, which is the Barani. So here we will get our dry bulb, wet bulb, humidity, and dew point temperatures. So here we also have another temperature instrument, which we call the weather pod. This one is a backup to the Barani. So we have redundancies in the system to ensure that we always have an instrument working at the time of observation, right? The next instrument that we use will be the anemograph. This is our wind instrument, it's the anemogram. So here we have dials, and we also have a chart, the anemograph, which displays the wind speed and wind direction. So here we have the wind direction and the wind speed measured in knots. So here we read off the average for 10 minutes for our observations, because our observations are recorded over a 10-minute period. As I mentioned earlier, we go up to the observation deck 10 to the hour, and our observations are completed on the hour. So here we read off our wind speed and wind direction, and then we would read off our atmospheric pressure. This is our barometer, digital barometer. So here on the hour, we have to read off the atmospheric pressure. We do this is very important, mainly for our aviation sector. The aircrafts use the atmospheric pressure to land and to take off. So with this, they are able to determine how far they are from the ground when landing. And they also use our temperatures. The humidity is very important to know how much fuel they would need, etc. And also the wind will help them to determine how fast they need to take off, because the wind gives the aircraft the lift to take off, and also how to land as well, because the wind slows down the aircraft while they are landing. So all of our observations are recorded in our observation registers. So here we have the synoptic register. Here we would have our synoptic reports. All of the observations are written in code form to summarize all the data, because it's a lot of data: the cloud information, the temperatures, the pressure, the wind. So we have it encoded in a short format. So this is what a synoptic observation would look like. It would start here with the time and the station number. We utilize UTC time or GMT time. All right. And so here we have starts with the station number and the time, and then we would have information such as visibility, the clouds, wind, temperature, pressure, sea level pressure, weather, rainfall, clouds, and so on. We also have the aeronautical reports, which are our metas. So here we have the meta register. So here we would have all the reports associated with the aviation sector. This code is different to the synoptic code. So all of the weather observers would have been trained at the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology in Barbados to how to encode and decode these messages. All right, so we were trained in observations, we were trained in the code, and also in the instruments. So here, we will send out routine observations every hour at the top of the hour. So after doing our observation at 10 to the hour and reading off our pressure on the hour, we would then submit our reports in the Met telecommunication system called the Kronos. So here, this will be transferred to an international hub where other stations, all the data comes together. So this data is used not only for our local airport, but also for airports abroad, also for other meteorological offices abroad. So everyone uses the data. Here we have what we call a meteogram. So all of the metals that we record at Trinidad and Tobago are recorded on this chart. So here we have our stations, Trinidad and Tobago, because we also have an observation station in Crown Point, Tobago. And they would send us their reports every hour, and it will be compiled and submitted together. So here we have other stations. The forecasters will usually use this to have a glimpse of what is going on in the region. So here we have stations from JFK, New York, Miami, Canada. We have Puerto Rico, different Caribbean stations, Dominica, Grenada. We also have some to the south of us. We have Guyana, and so on. So just with this data, the forecaster is able to determine, to get a glimpse of what is happening in the region at the time. And we plot these every hour. So this is an example of our surface charts. So all of the data collected from the observation stations or land stations will be recorded and placed on the charts. So from this, the forecasters are then able to utilize this information to analyze the charts and be able to determine what the weather is looking like in our region, what to expect, and so on. So here, the observers will plot the data. We'll collect data from the other stations around the region. So here, this is the Caribbean chain. We have North America, South America, and the African coast. And so we would collect this data online, because all of the data is available online, and we will plot it onto the charts in order for the forecasters to use. Now, this happens in every meteorological office, so all of the data is available internationally. So this is our website, and here you'd be able to see in our forecast where some of the data that the observers collect is presented in the forecast. So here we have the minimum temperature. Remember, I would have spoken about getting the minimum and the maximum every 6 hours. Here we would have had the minimum temperature for last night, and the forecast would have put a forecast max temperature. In the 4 p.m. forecast, you'd be able to see what today's maximum temperature was. So all of this information, including the rainfall that we measure every 6 hours, is included in the forecast. So here we have the 2 p.m. to 2 p.m. for rainfall data. And we'll also have cumulative data, which is the amount of rainfall gathered over the month so far.